first base, really, foundation to my leadership came at an institution called St. John's College. And I think what one got from there was the embracing of a culture of excellence. And every week in one of our morning chapel services, they said the creed, the color, and the name are of no relevance. It's about were you there? It's about what you achieved. And I think that has been a guiding light throughout my life. The next institution that influenced my life really was University of Witwatersrand, which said be true to your values and beliefs, whatever they might be, and let them be a guiding constraint throughout your life. And that certainly is the foundation from where I came. I think everyone is quite free to get their own foundations, but I do think that is very important in the road ultimately to whatever leadership roles you aspire to. And then there are defining moments, and I think you were referring to that, Maurice, as well. Where is your career going to go, and how do the outcomes in your career come about? The irony is the supply chain one for me was a chance and a direction that just came by the by in SAB. But certainly one of the most defining moments in my career came at Arthur Young, now Ernst Young. And I'd been offered 2 jobs. Been offered a job at a small retail store that doesn't exist to this day, but that had a company car, so I very nearly went for that. And I'd been offered a job as group financial controller at SAB. And Arthur Young was saying I'd gone and done a higher tax law after CA, so at a young age was saying, don't do it. You'll be a partner within 6 months and stay with us. And I think the important thing at that point in time to say, what is your strategic plan? Is your strategic plan to be a partner of a big 5 audit firm with all the security, certainty, technical reward, etc., that comes out of that type of environment? And they're great environments because they're environments of like-minded people. So the value systems, much as some of us may query some of the things that have happened recently, the value systems are fantastic in those organizations, almost without exception. Or do you have another vision? And I had a vision ultimately that I'd like to run a business. I'd like to run a business in general management as opposed even to financial management. And I think that vision became the guiding light really to moving into South African breweries. My timing could not have been worse. You'll all remember a guy used to wave his finger in South Africa, a chap called P.W. Botha, who told the world that he had a Rubicon speech to make in 1984. I'd never seen a downturn in my life, and I'd been in the profession, which is quite a safe place to be when it's windy. And this famous speech came out and it was a no-show. Nothing was said. Nothing changed in South Africa. Apartheid was still there. There was no major event at all out of that speech. And it coincided at the same time with changes in legislation that pulled HP terms down on durables and semi-durables from 5 years to 2 years. And at that stage, in SAB, and the area I was involved in, we had AFCOL, which today was Steinhoff, or was the base of Steinhoff before they did all the silly things they've done. They had Amalgamated Retail, Southern Sons, Degama, Island View Storage, the Lion Match Company later in life. This was an acquisition I got involved in, and many, many of those businesses, all of which were potentially impacted by this outcome. I walked into the second or third day after that, Laurie called me in and he said to me, Peter, I want you to sit down and I want you to work through all the staff of this group and we need to reduce heads by 40%. Wow, really? So he said, yeah. So I thought, I'm not going to argue with him now, but I went back to my office and I thought about it. And I looked at the people close to me. I looked at my departments and thought, well, I know one chap who wants to go back to university and he's quite expensive and a few people like that. And I thought, gee, I actually feel like picking up the phone and going back to Ernst Young. I actually can't believe this outcome. It's brutal. Anyway, I got on with the job and I walked back. About 3 days later, Laurie came through again and I'd got very close to him and Maya Khan at that stage. I always thought I was superseding our financial director, but he loved it. He said, keep them busy, they drive him mad. So he welcomed me spending time with him. And I put a document in front of him. He said, I notice your name's white. So I said, yeah, well, I can't market red or green. That's your call at the end of the day. And I'm probably one of the newest guys here. And he said, no, you have a career, and you have a very exciting career with breweries. We don't believe in crown princes, but in the event that you look a little bit angry about all of this, are you? And I said, yeah, I am. I'm very concerned about this because I think it almost seems to be an overreaction. Anyway, he sat down and he said to me, Peter, do you shower? I said, yeah, I do shower. So he said, when you turn off your shower water this evening, let me tell you, this economy is going to turn off like that. He said, the sales, what is the break-even sales in AFCOL? And we're talking a long time ago, 1984. And I said, it's about 22 million rand a month. He said, it'll be 8 million within a month. Okay. So he said, and I'm going to share with you, and I hope that one day, if you ever are CEO of SAB, you'll remember these. I'm going to share a few points that you won't get at business school. When there's an economic trend, interpret it immediately. Calculate it to the best of your accuracy. Be decisive. Take your decisions. Have your plan on how you're going to address it. You can always back off those decisions, and incidentally, we did back off a lot of those staff decisions. But he said you also have to learn to protect the greater outcome. It is about most of the people, and it is about the surviving of businesses such as AFCOL, Amrel, and others. And that you've got to know in your mind and at the end of the day. And he said, finally, you've also got to accept the hard decisions. And this man, bear of a man that everyone sort of dreaded at 2 young smuts, I realized I knew always had the softest heart you'd ever seen. And he said, when you do make those hard decisions, live with it. Don't beat yourself up for months and months and months. Don't not sleep at night. And we do. Any person will do that. But he said, try and learn to accept the hard decisions in life. I never have, by the way. And learn to understand your loneliness too. He said, don't let people into how you're feeling, because it is a lonely place to be a CEO. You've got to make those decisions, and you can only trust very few people with those decisions. And he said, trust is earned. Ironically, one of the people I trust in my life today, who makes Supergroup a better place every day for me, is Adrian Lewis, because there's not a day that he doesn't come to my office with some half-baked scheme or some idea to go and get into trouble somewhere. But and Adrian's sitting in the back, so thank you for that, Adrian. I then went in, the wheel of life turns. We're all so hung up about this land issue at the moment. I had an incredible experience. 1988 came around. Maya Carl called me and he said, Peter, how would you like to be the CEO of a 2 billion rand listed company? I said, I'm the man. I mean, what a question. Of course I'm the person. He said, well, government and business has been in a lot of conflict with each other. I said, yes. And he said, there was a state president's economic meeting. And he said, yeah. I said, yes. And he said, 3 gentlemen, myself, Fred Duplessis, who headed up Sanlam, and Derek Cooper, who was the Barlow CEO and Standard Bank chairman until recently. We put forward to the president that there is a need for ownership in South Africa. There are so many communities in this country that have never had the economic benefit of home ownership. And we're going to set up, and I thought I was taking over a major listed established company. We're going to set up a business. Government is going to give us 1 billion rand. You will see a chap called Philip Chown, and you'll get that money from the State Energy Fund, so you'll be spending quite a bit of time in Cape Town. And we're going to gear up that money, and we're going to go and do wide-scale housing developments for previously underprivileged people. It was an incredible time because what was so fantastic of it, that very first night we got offices in Kent Road in Randburg, had a box and a telephone there, no money, and a chap called Charles Snyman who ran beer division in the Free State came to me and said, Peter, there's a community called Bochabella. I know the guy who owns the farm next to it. We can buy it. We can do 5,000 service stands. And we can be full ownership and we can build houses. I said, okay, well, buddy, you can sit then and write the proposal to the board with me, which we did. And I took it to Maya, and this encapsulated Maya. Maya just had energy and courage. And I took it, and he said to me, Pete, I don't want to go through it. I accept the numbers are right and everything he said there. He said, just tell me why you want to do it. I said, fine. And he said, in the words of my hero, John Wayne, man on horse is better than man on horse, man on foot rather. Man on horse is better than man on foot. Just go and do it. And I think that's another learning in life. There's always time to smile. There's always time to laugh. There's always time to be a little bit irreverent. And that was some of Maya's style. And that is a leadership style that encouraged incredible loyalty and an incredible commitment to SAB. SAB probably had one of the finest families of employees that this country has ever seen. Then Dr. Fred du Plessis, who I hardly knew, but a very interesting man. We went down and we raised our money, and we are now gearing up. And I'd employed another chap to sort of put the money into good use in the bonds market. And Fred du Plessis phoned me up one day and he said, I've been looking at economic statistics. He said, I'd get all my money out of term bonds if I was you, and I'd go into the money market. We made within a month 230 million rand on that decision. I never knew if he had insight, because he was, after all, in the inner circle and the head of Sanlam. But yeah, here was a man whose economic analysis and technical analysis were world class. The most amazing human being. We went down to see our first project in Botshabelo, and he traveled economy class. And when we were getting back on the plane, and I just said, give me the tickets, and I went and paid to upgrade him to business class. And he came to me and he said, Peter, thank you for doing that. But he said, it's a principle. Leaders need to be with their people. He said, I don't like traveling in business class. He said, it's a principle for me to travel in economy class. And it's a principle for me not to differentiate too much across status in organizations, which is a very important principle that we follow at Supergroup. And then Derek Cooper, another interesting person. First time I had to go and see him at Barlow World, I walked in, there was a lounge suite in his office. Interesting, we sat down, there was a reading lamp and a magnificent chair. And we talked a bit about various things. And he said, Derek, do you not work? Do you never work? My office has got documents this thick and in trays and everything spread across tables and stuff. And he said, my greatest advice, I've never been able to get this right, by the way, but it is great advice. He said, my greatest advice to you is not to work so hard, but to strategize more. He said, I make it an absolute point that I don't have a desk in my office. And he said, I make 2 hours of every day to think about where we're going strategically. I wish I'd done that all my life. I never got there. The other interesting thing for many of us, this is such a diverse country. And there's so many diverse cultures, and many of them are going to be challenging one way or another. And quite honestly, in the role at the SA Housing Trust and the establishment of the Housing Trust, there were many easy issues. Raising a 2 billion in funding turned out to be quite easy. The ownership issue in terms of getting legality changes were promulgated, and we could get, one of the doctrines was there had to be full ownership of these properties. The only province we didn't do a single project in was KwaZulu-Natal, for the obvious reasons of tribal trust issues. But everywhere else in the period I was there, we did 1.6 billion rands worth of houses and service stands. Getting Standard Bank to be our collection agency, open accounts, collect our bonds, also easy. The real challenge was government. It was just the most difficult culture I'd ever been into. You walk in there, you're clearly an English-speaking, probably a left-wing boy. The area you grew up was always Helen Suzman's area. And you're down in Cape Town, it's the House of Reps era. You're asked please to stay at the Dorpshuis, and you're going to spend some time with this Philip Chan, who was a lovely guy, for him to raise this money with you. The culture was absolutely different. The walking into the dining room that first evening felt just abhorrent and hostile in every sense of the word. And yet, it was a great lesson, because we do move around in life, and you've got to, in a sense, in a leadership, have the courage first to embrace that, to try and understand the diversity of the views, and then to try and work with relationships. And that did work for me.